friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Vlogtober. If you are new here, my name is Joelle. Welcome, and if you are back, thank you so much for being here. I am filming a video and posting one every day throughout October. So welcome, and if you want to stick around for the rest of the month and you're not subscribed, please remember to subscribe. I'd love to have you come along for the journey. So I want to talk today about mental health. I want to talk specifically about postnatal depression. If you have been part of my channel for any amount of time, you would probably know I've shared from time to time that I have had a history and quite the journey with postnatal depression, also prenatal depression, postnatal anxiety. I mean, you name it, I probably had it. So I went through quite a difficult time, and my heart is to really be able to talk to women and to men affected. I would love to have my husband actually come on here for one of these videos and talk from his perspective about it, because it affects everybody so very much. And you know, I have a very much a heart as somebody who suffered and went through it and still has struggles even to this day, to be able to reach other people and to talk to other people and to let you know, number one, that there's a hope, that my hope is in Jesus, that there is a hope for you, that there is a God who loves you, that it's never too late. And no matter how bad and how hard it feels, even when you feel like this will never end and there's no way out of it, there is. It will end, and there is a way out of it, and you will get better. And I know what it's like to believe that you won't. I totally understand that feeling, but I'm here to tell you that you will. And so this is my heart. And so I just want to start at the very beginning. I'm not going to tell my whole story today, but I'm certainly going to be sharing more and more throughout this month. If you have heard my story before, I apologize, but I would love to just give a bit of background in case there are those who haven't heard it, and I will build off of this it's not a story, it really did happen, this true story, but I will build off of what I say today going into the next videos as well. So I am a mum to 5 beautiful children, ranging from the ages of almost 13 to 3, so a decade long of having babies, and I absolutely love them. They are my whole world. It certainly has not been easy. It has not been easy. There's been many hard times, as I'm sure all parents know, but especially for people who go through depression. So I had my first baby at 25 years old. Sorry, I do sound like I've got a cold still. I've had a bit of one and it's just sticking around. At 25 years old, I had our first child, Joseph, and he was seriously like the dream baby. He was such a good boy. And I thought, him being my first baby, oh my gosh, I am just the most magnificent mother. I've got this all together. Turns out it wasn't me, it was him, because I went on to have other babies. And he was just such a good baby. He breastfed so easily. He put himself, like the baby put himself into a sleeping routine, and it's totally true to his personality. He's exactly the same way now. He's a routine, really clean, neat person, you know, and he's like his dad. My point being, he was a really easy baby, and I had a smooth pregnancy. I had some scares in the pregnancy that I can share in another video because it's not related to this one. But overall, it was a smooth and easy pregnancy. Labor and delivery was fine, and his infancy was great. And by the time he was 11 months old, I was still breastfeeding, and I fell pregnant with our second son, Isaac. And I don't even think I knew I was pregnant until I took a test. Like, I went from having a baby to breastfeeding to being pregnant again, which was wonderful. That was my dream. I wanted to have my babies really close together, and so I was so thrilled and so excited. So I went on to have Isaac. Pregnancy I was a little more tired because I had a 1-year-old, obviously, and being pregnant. But again, he was super easy. He was probably my easiest birth ever. As a baby, he was a lot harder. He did not sleep through the night, like, ever. He was very much a co-sleeper, like literally would not even attempt to sleep if he was not with me. He had some digestive issues, and so he he could not go on solids until he was 10 months old. And so that really took it out of me physically. I was quite depleted. And again, the magic number of 11 months, I fell pregnant again with our third child, which again, I was thrilled. David and I mean, you can't plan everything out, but we had agreed, Lord willing, we wanted 3. 3 was a good number. We both come from 3, and we wanted to have 3 babies really close together. That was the dream. And so, fell pregnant with our third child. I was absolutely thrilled. By the third pregnancy, I started to feel weird. I started to feel really off. And I think I just at the time thought, well, I've got a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old and I'm pregnant. So of course I'm exhausted, and my little 1-year-old has had a bunch of health things and doesn't sleep great. And so I just put it down to being completely fatigued. I was taking, prenatal vitamins. I was trying to do the right things. I was quite healthy in that particular pregnancy. I think I knew my body needed the extra help. So I was trying to take really good care of myself. I was exercising a lot, like safely, but I was trying to stay really active. But I just felt odd. I didn't feel bad. I just felt really, really odd. And I was also in a lot of pain, like towards the end of the pregnancy. The other thing I should say is in Darius's pregnancy, I got so sick. And I don't mean morning sickness. I never really had terrible morning sickness with any of my babies, but there was 2 occasions where I caught something, no 3. Poor baby, because I was like feverishly sick, like very, very unwell quite a few times, to the point that I was quite scared at times, and I would call the midwife, and praise God, a lot of those times it was over the 6-month point, and so developmentally we weren't worried, but it wasn't an easy pregnancy is what I'm trying to say. And so by the time I got to like 8 months, I was in agony. Like my back, I had a nursing injury from aged care nursing from years before that was flaring up. All my ligaments were loose. I could barely walk. My legs would just seize up on me. And so I was like, I can't do this anymore. And another story, maybe I can share it another time. I have so many stories. I want to do a pregnancy story video, but that day I was 38 weeks, and I went to the midwife for my checkup, and I was like, please tell me that this baby's coming, like it's the 3rd one. And she's like, nope, you're not even close. You're probably going to go overdue, which was the last thing I wanted to hear. But anyway, my mum came and visited me. She was really taking such good care of me, and I just burst into tears, and I said, Mum, I can't do this. I can't even do another day. I don't know how I'm going to make it. I was just so distraught. And so she prayed for me, and she just said, Lord, if it's safe for the baby to come now, would you please let the baby come now? That was at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 9 p.m. that night, Darius was born. So my mum, thank you, Lord, he listens to my mum. So he was born 38 weeks on the dot, and he was just such a beautiful baby boy. Here's the thing. When he was born, I remember literally the second he was born, they gave him to me to hold, and I didn't feel the same. I felt different. Joseph and Isaac, it was that whole elation of just that wave of joy and love and all of that comes over you as a mum when you've just given birth. And I held Darius, and I felt quite muted. I felt quite numb in the situation, and I just sort of put it down to I must just be so exhausted. And so again, I put it down to tiredness. Of course I loved him. But my feelings were just not as big or elevated as they had been with my other 2. So I didn't think it was much concern. My eldest child was also having a bunch of health issues, like serious health issues at that time. He had been in and out of hospital. There was a couple times I thought that I was going to go into labor from stress. And it was like just a couple weeks before that where I thought, well, he's going to be in the hospital and I'm going to be having the baby at the same time. So there was a lot of stress going on. And even when I had Darius, I just needed to go home. Like I couldn't be away from my oldest because I was so concerned about him. And so it was like this really just bizarre state of mind. Like, I've got a newborn and I'm so tired and I know I need to recover, but I've got to go home. And Dave was doing a great job, and he would have been more than happy for me to stay in the hospital, but I needed to go home. I could not be there. And so I took Darius and we went home, and he was so tiny. He was 38 weeks and he was really little. And I think having the health things that I'd had in the pregnancy, it made him a little bit smaller as well, but he was so tiny. They didn't want me to leave, but I basically told them I'm leaving, and I left. So anyway, maybe I'm going to have to make this video a two-part video because it's going to be quite long. But that was the lead up to my pregnancy. And I remember, again, not feeling necessarily bad for the first 3 months. I didn't feel bad. I just felt numb. And I was waiting for all of that just love feeling, you know, all that really good love chemicals that are meant to come with the breastfeeding and the bonding and all of that I'd had with the other two. And it just never kicked in. It sort of felt like, you know, when the water pressure is really low and you're used to the high water pressure, and then it's like you put it on and it's like it's coming, but it's like your hair's all flat because you can't get a good shower. That's what my emotions felt like. It just felt a little bit odd. And I remember going to church back in Penrith, and a lady who had 4 kids came up to me and she looked me in the eye and she said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm fine." And she goes, "Do you have any depression?" She asked me point blank. And I was actually quite offended at the question. I was like, "No, I'm fine." Like, and I was like, what a weird question to ask me. Why would she ask me that? And I was, turns out, obviously, maybe she could see something that I didn't. And I think this lady actually in her past had struggled with the same sort of thing. So maybe she could see the signs. But I just was very, very numb. About 3 months passed, and suddenly my numb feelings, they got worse and they got better, but in a worse way. So I would go through times where I just felt nothing. Like nothing. So not even the low water pressure. I just literally felt nothing. I felt no emotion. And it scared me so badly, because here I am holding this 3-month-old baby and I feel nothing. Like, I feel absolutely nothing. And then even my other boys, who I knew that I'd had those big emotions with, it was like, I feel nothing for my children. I don't have any emotions. And then I would feel emotions, but they were anger and resentment and hurt, just a lot of deep hurt and pain. And it was a really horrible time. And it actually really scared me, because this was so unlike anything I had ever felt. And I literally had no joy at all, like none. I felt no love and I had no joy, and I just went completely numb. And I'm going to, in the next video, not the next one tomorrow, but I have videos coming up where I'm going to talk about the strategies that I used and the ways I was able to overcome that numb feeling, and how long it took and what I had to do and all of that. So I'm not going to talk about that here, but that is sort of where it began. And so I went through, and not just numb. So I'd go from numb to really angry, really resentful, just towards everybody and everything. I was resentful towards my kids. I was resentful towards my husband. I couldn't stand myself. I didn't even like myself. I didn't want to be in my own skin. I was just so very uncomfortable. I hated being in my home. It was just a really horrible time, and I did not feel like me. I felt like I had gone. Like, the Joelle I knew was gone, and I did not know how she would ever come back. And so that was a very, very difficult journey. The other emotion that I felt very strongly and very frequently was fear. I was very afraid. I was afraid of absolutely everything. I was afraid to be with my children. I was afraid to hold my children. I was afraid to go outside of the home. I was afraid to see people. I was afraid to put the news on. I got to this point where I could not have any outside information at all. I didn't watch television. The only television I watched was the ABC cartoons with my little toddlers. Even that was like that was the only thing, and I was afraid that ads would come on or something. Like I couldn't see anything. And sometimes I would watch the shopping channel. That was about it. I would listen to Christian radio or classic radio, but even that was too much. It was too much on my mind. I was so afraid, like they would put a newspaper on our front lawn, and I would be like, I can't even go out there and look at it. Like I would want Dave to go get rid of it, or the news, everything scared me. I was literally petrified and frozen in place. And so I would just go from this like pick your it's like, you know, spin the wheel. Do you want to be numb today? Do you want to be angry? Do you want to be fearful? Do you want to be just down and just, you know, like it was a mess. It was a real mess. And I think there was a lot of things that led up to that point. I do think that how do we say this word? Hereditary, you know what I'm saying, in the family, right? So I look back in our family history and I can see relatives of mine that went through very hard times, and they wouldn't have known what it was back then, but I can see now in our day and age what that was. And so I think that there is a bit of a genetic disposition, and sometimes that can get triggered off. So I do think I had that going for me. I think that I was very, very, very depleted, even though I was trying to, you know, take care of myself. Having 3 babies, 3 and under, it sort of just did me in, and I would never change it. I would go back and do it all over again. I would never change it, but it was hard on my chemicals, on my hormones, on everything. And so I think everything just went a little bit scatterbrained on me. I was sleep deprived. I was exhausted. I also had some really bad ways of thinking. I had really bad patterns of thinking, and that really tripped me up. As a Christian, I had some very bizarre ways of thinking about God. I think there was things that I had gotten confused, and it was weighing on my mind. A lot of, you know, end time theology and things that, you know, you grow up watching those horrific movies that in my opinion are not biblical at all, and you get these ideas in your head. And so that's why I was so petrified to watch any news or anything like that, because I didn't want to hear about anything that was happening in the world. I felt guilty for having children. I was like, how could I have brought my children into the world? And so that is a whole nother topic, and the Lord has brought me through. And let me just side note, if you're a Christian and you struggle with that, there is so much hope. There is just so much hope. Please know that. And if you're interested in talking about that more, let me know. But I had to really dig deep for a long time and search the scriptures and seek the Lord and come to this place of peace with God. And that really helped. But there was so much going on at the time. It was like just one of those things wouldn't have been enough to throw me into the seriously dangerous place that I was in. But all of them put together was just like a volcano, and it just erupted. And I was very, very unwell, and I had serious postnatal depression for at least 3 years. And after, it turned into prenatal because that's another story for another time. But another baby came along, and while I was still struggling, and then it was postnatal again. And there was just so much that happened in that time. But I'm not here to give you a heavy discussion. I genuinely want to just share my heart. Let you know that if this is something you are struggling with or you have struggled with, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There is just so much hope for you. I really want you to know that. So in my next video, because I think this is going so long, I want to talk about, I'm actually going to, not in tomorrow's video, but in the next video I make about this topic, I'm going to talk about the strategies that I used to love my baby when I felt no love, basically. Like, how do you love your baby when you don't feel like you love your baby? And so that was, it's horrible to even say that. I get emotional even thinking about that's where I was. I always loved him, but I felt nothing. And so how do you love without feelings, you know? And I want to tell the story about when those feelings finally came, and oh my goodness, what a beautiful day that was. But it was a full 12 months before that even happened. So I would like to share that with you in the next video about this. Thank you so much if you made it to the end for listening. I hope that this could speak to you and you can hear my heart. Thank you for being here, and I will see you tomorrow with another video. Take care. God bless you. Bye.